It is Wednesday, June 10th, and I am here at school. I've been working hard this morning, trying to get some things shelved and put away from all the 3,000 things you guys turned in. If you happen to, if you guys happen to have materials at home, make sure you bring them in when we start school back in the fall. I'm trying to get our guest on here in a minute. You guys will see who it is. Yay, she's here. Hi, Mrs. Carter. Can I
Hi. Yeah.
hear you? Okay. I'm always worried, like, can I hear? Okay, yes. And I'm at school. Look at
You
this.
are. That's
I know. I
awesome.
had a mask earlier, but I didn't want to do that on the video. Yeah. So Miss Carter teaches sixth grade English language arts, and she has awesome, fantastic book recommendations. And I know she's got some really good ones this morning she wanted to share with everybody. So, Mrs. Carter, when you are ready, I'm going to let you chat about a couple books.
Okay, I'm ready.
Awesome.
All right. The first one that I want to talk about is we're kind of obsessed in sixth grade. I don't know if everybody else is with World War II. All the great Alan Gratz books.
Your timer is set for 30 minutes.
Books and Boy in the Striped Pajamas, and just all of those great books that give us such a good insight into what was happening during that time. And we talk a lot about remembering our history. And I think at this point in the United States and probably in the world, we're kind of at one of those points again where we're seeing historical things take place. Coronavirus, historical moment. These things have never happened. We've had viruses, we've had outbreaks of things before. We've never had the entire country shut down. We've never had schools over the entire country closed. We have now lived through a totally new moment in history that we will never forget. For people my age, because I'm in my 50s, don't tell anybody. For people my age, we remember where we were when President Reagan was shot. I was 13. I was in seventh grade. I stayed home from school that day because there was something special happening on General Hospital. And I tricked my mom, don't tell anybody, to let me stay home. And then President Reagan got shot and they took General Hospital off. And we had to watch the news. And I was more upset, of course.
Well, the things don't work out, do they?
No. So I tricked everybody, and then I got tricked. But I mean, it was terrible that President Reagan got shot. He did survive. But I remember where I was and what was going on. The Space Shuttle Challenger explosion. I was a senior in high school. I was in the choir hallway. We had skipped the beginning of class here. I did not skip class all the time, guys. These just happen to be two moments that happened in the world. We were skipping class with our teacher's permission to stand in the hallway between the choir rooms and watch TV, because we didn't have TVs in every room then. 1986, guys. We did not have TVs in every room, but there was a rolling TV on a cart, and we had an antenna on it, and we got the TV station. We didn't all have cable. Well, not really that old. The TV was color. So I remember where I was at those moments. I remember where I was on 9/11. I was standing in my kitchen. I was pregnant with my daughter. I just dropped my boys off at school. My brother-in-law, my husband's brother, lives in Manhattan. I remember. And when you get older, you will be able to tell people and remember where you were, what you were wearing. I can tell you, I had 9/11. I had on a purple t-shirt and a pair of white shorts and purple flip-flops. That doesn't matter, but it's seared in my mind.
Absolutely.
So the two books I want to talk to you about today are both things that are seared in my mind. The first one is Ruta Sepetys. Did I say that right?
Sepetys is how she.
Sepetys.
You did awesome.
So I know you've met her. I'm very jealous. So the first book is called Salt to the Sea, and it is one of her maybe the less read books. I think that Between Shades of Grey is obviously her most popular one, and it is also World War II.
Yes.
And you should definitely read that.
Yes.
But this one I bought at our book fair at school, and I had saved it because I like to have real life books when I go to the swimming pool or for spring break.
Right.
And so I had saved it for that, and then I didn't get spring break, so I just read it. And so it is so interesting. I learned something I had never known before. There was actually, in January of 1945, there was this cruise ship in Prussia, which was part of Russia down at the bottom. And actually, at this point in the war, it's the very end of World War II, and the Germans know they're losing, and they're running. The people and the Nazis, they're all running toward the sea to escape, and the Russians are chasing them. And so all the Russian armies are chasing, and this is happening over, a couple weeks worth of time. There are these four main characters. This is historical fiction. It is loosely based on partly a true story. These four characters did not exist, but people like them certainly did. And all of these people find each other as they're hiding in the woods, trying to escape the Russians. One of them is actually a Nazi soldier who's being chased by the Nazis and the Russians. That's really interesting. And one of them is really who I think is the main character, protagonist of the story for sure. And she kind of nurses everyone and takes care of everyone. She's a nurse. And they all kind of find each other, and they become this little gang of misfits. And they travel at night so they won't be caught, and they sleep like in barns and in the woods. They cover up with tree branches and things, and they sleep during the day so they won't be caught. And it's their travel toward the sea while the Russians are chasing everyone. And they're trying to get to the sea because there's a ship there that used to be a cruise ship, and it's really, really old and hasn't been out on the sea because they've been in a war, so they haven't had cruises. Kind of like where we are now. We haven't had cruise ships for a while.
Yeah.
And so it hasn't been taken care of. It hasn't been, maintenance. It's not in good shape. But the Germans think they can put everybody on this ship and take them across the sea to freedom so that they won't be gotten by the Russians. And it's the story of how that ship's not ready for people to be on it. It's so good. I laughed. I cried. I looked things up online. I'm a Googler. So I get on the Google Monster and I just look everything up. And there's a ton of stuff about this ship, which was the Gustav Williamson or something like that.
Stuff, but yeah, and it was a real ship. Like Ms. Carter said, look it up, because Marissa Petties is awesome at finding these stories we don't all really know about and making them very real to us.
Right. So that one I totally recommend. I have to scoot back now because I have a bunch of things to show you for the next book.
Okay. She has things to show us.
I have props. Okay, so definitely read that book. If you want to talk to me about it, I'm on Instagram. Or you can, let me know. You can talk to me any way you want to. We can talk about it. All right. So the next one, I grew up in a time when The Wizard of Oz was our Disney. Okay. We didn't have even VHS machines. We didn't have cable. We had TV. There was only cartoons on Saturday in the morning. Like after 12 or 1, forget it. It was sports. And so when I was really little, my dad was in Vietnam. In the war in Vietnam. And my mom was a single mom at home, and she worked nights at a hospital. I lived in Cincinnati.
Oh, okay.
While my mom was trying to sleep, because she was a single parent, she would try to sleep, and she would give me things to do while she slept so that I could, keep myself busy until time to go to the babysitter. And so one of the things that I had, this is a record.
A vinyl.
Thank you very much. A vinyl. I'm going to scoot back a little bit more.
Easy.
And the back of it's black and white even, with scenes from the movie Judy Garland. And so this was my entertainment. I didn't have movies on TV. I couldn't just get on Disney Plus and choose whatever I want to watch every day. So I listened to this over. It's the whole movie.
Oh, it is?
I don't know. It's from MGM Records. It's musical and dramatic selections. Oh, it's not the whole movie. It's selections.
Okay.
Recorded directly from the soundtrack of MGM's Technicolor film. So this is all the songs. And so when I was little, I thought I was Dorothy. And I did not have a Dorothy dress because they didn't make costumes like that then. But my granny made me, do you remember Butterball bread bags that were blue and white checked like Dorothy's dress? Okay,
Yes.
They were plastic bags like what bread comes in, right? But they had a design
Right.
on the outside. Instead of being like orange or whatever, they were blue and white checked.
Yeah.
My granny collected a bunch of those and she wove them together. I don't know where this is. I need to find it. And she made me a bag. She made me a little purse. She lined it with paper, with cloth, and it had a little button on it, but it's woven. I know. They were crazy down in Kentucky in those days. We didn't have, we didn't have any money. So
that was what
we did.
you did. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, my other granny on my dad's side, she took the plastic rings from Coke cans.
Yeah.
And hung them up on her window as blinds. She
Really?
stapled them all together and made blinds out of them.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But that's so creative and thinking
resourceful to people that lived through the Depression.
Absolutely.
I did not live through the Depression, but they did.
Yep.
So they saved everything and used everything. She also had carpet on her toilet seat. Not so sanitary, but we loved it as kids. I was like, I gotta go better.
I'm just thinking through that. Okay.
It was interesting. It was green. So, okay, so this was my prized possession, which now I had to go in my daughter's room to get it this morning because it is one of my things from my childhood that she has chosen to take on. And I mean, I colored on it. You can see the orange crayon. It's taped together. The tape's falling apart. Okay, so I loved Wizard of Oz. I memorized all the songs, and when we would go to the grocery store, I would sing and I would say all the parts. And
Yes.
my mom's friends thought I was schizophrenic, thought that I had like multiple personalities because I would be all the parts.
You're telling the story.
I also did not have any siblings until I was 10 years old. Only child.
I understand.
So at that time in life, I didn't go to school. I went to a babysitter. She didn't have kids. I just went over there and slept basically at night while my mom was at work.
And you're entertaining yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another example of my early days Wizard of Oz. Ages 5 to 9. Okay, and also we should probably note that this was my cousin's and I stole it. It says to Missy McClure, she stole my Barbie clothes all the time. So I probably felt very, okay to take this. 1970.
1970.
Okay. And of course I wrote my name all over it. And I can't show it to you because my handwriting was so bad. But this was, it's not in great shape either.
You read that over and over.
I read it over and over and over. These were my things. Okay. Skip forward to my adult years when, I wish I had my t-shirt out. I didn't think about that. But when this happens.
Oh.
Okay. So Wicked comes out and I get a little obsessed.
Yes.
I take my daughter to see it. I spend way too much money.
Well,
Then I go see it again with some friends. Then we go to New York to visit my brother-in-law for my daughter's 16th birthday, which was 2 years ago. And we take her to see it in New York on Broadway, which was even more magnificent than seeing it here at the Murat, which isn't the Murat anymore. I don't know what it's called.
I know what you
this is one I bought for my daughter, and it is.
Oh,
And I would love to bring this in and share it with you sometime at school.
you must.
It is a pop-up of all the wonderful things. It has little slide pockets and all that good stuff. But it's the Wicked story. So I have this little obsession with Dorothy, the Wizard of Oz, the whole deal. Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, I was on Sora, which is my total go-to. I read I probably read about a book every 2 days. I'm actually in the middle of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes right now. I'm about halfway.
Ooh. Hmm.
I bought it last week while I was on vacation.
Do you like
It's
it?
blowing my mind. I can't put it
Okay.
down.
I didn't know if I wanted to read about President Snow, but
Well,
okay.
let me tell you, you fall in love with him. I don't want to talk about this yet, but
Okay, I'm not talking about this. Let's go back to
he's a
Wizard of
very sympathetic character.
Dorothy.
Of course, well written. Okay, so we're back to Dorothy and my snowman cup because it's my favorite, and who cares? Sorry, if you're in my class, you know I gotta have my coffee. When I start rambling, it's time for coffee. Okay, so my second book is called Dorothy Must Die.
So you just found it on Sora.
Found it on Sora. I was on Sora and I was like, oh, let's look at fantasy because this is a fantasy. It's kind of dystopian, but it's not like America. It's this whole other world like Oz. It is Oz that
And
we
I-
go to.
So I know I need to.
It blew my mind.
But I've
Okay,
heard.
blew my mind. I can't get my other Dorothy back in my head. It's so weird. Like I need to sit down and watch The Wizard of Oz. But it kind of takes you to this whole other place like Wicked did.
Yes.
Wicked didn't focus on Dorothy. She wasn't in it at all. It focused on the two witches and how one was good and one was bad, but were they really? Is that really how it was?
Right.
And that's what this does. It kind of turns Oz upside down. So there's a girl and she lives in Kansas. She lives in a trailer.
Mhm.
She has a mom who doesn't take care of her at all. She doesn't know. She's never seen her dad.
Mhm.
She's very much like all of us. You know, she doesn't have a great family that takes good care of her. She's middle schoolish, like maybe 12, 13. And so she is kind of on her own. And there's a tornado. Surprise. And so at the very beginning of the book, this tornado comes and all of a sudden she wakes up in Oz.
Wow.
And because she's, you know, that age and she's familiar with the Oz story,
Right.
she knows that's where she is. She's like,
What's
that's
up?
a yellow brick road. That's all green. Those monkeys can fly. Those
Yeah.
little people over there are munchkins. Like she figures it out pretty quick, but she doesn't really know if she's awake or not. And so it takes this really familiar story.
Yeah.
It turns it upside down yet again. And it focuses this time on Dorothy, who has now become the power in Oz and is not nice. She's not good. She has decided that she has all of this power. She's picked everybody else off the throne. She's like lobotomized cut out the brain of Ozma.
Got it.
And so she's on the throne. Literally, she has a throne. And the Munchkins are mining because magic is in the ground, and they have to find the magic, or she's going to run out of magic. And the monkeys, of course, do her bidding.
Of course.
But they actually are not evil.
Oh.
They are prisoners.
Right, and they're doing it because they have to.
Because they have to. And so it takes all of those things and it gives it a modern kind of twist because she's from today.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, it just turns your whole brain upside down. I have had to often not set it down, but because I was reading it on my Chromebook, I had to often just close it and take a walk and think about it and process it because it takes everything you know or think you know and flips it all over.
Ooh.
And it's a mind bender. It's a really good one. And there's a whole series. There's like 7 or 8 because, well, there's 4.
Okay.
There's 4 actual books, but then now, and Danielle Page, Page is the author. And they've now got these ones in between, which are kind of like 0.1, 0.2.
Yeah.
Which kind of explains some of that stuff, which maybe would keep me from having to take a walk to process it all. I don't know.
I need to add those to Sora. I didn't realize there were novellas.
There are. So if you look on Google, it'll list all of them in order.
Yeah.
And you can see all of that. But there's actually a list that tells you what order you should read them in.
Okay, cool.
Which is interesting. Because, you know, sometimes even like with Star Wars, which everybody's familiar with now, there's an order to, and Avengers, there's an order to them that isn't necessarily the order they were made or released in.
Exactly.
And so if you watch them in the order they came out in, then you go back, which is what we've done with Star Wars and Avengers during all of this COVID stuff. Go back
Oh,
and watch them in the actual order and watch a movie a day.
chronological.
Yeah. Yeah.
More-
Like Ant-Man and the Wasp Girl and add all that stuff in and put them in the right order. And then when you watch the Avengers, you'll see those people and you won't be going, who is that? Because now you've put it in the right order.
Great.
I don't know. It's one of those things.
It is.
So those are my 2 books.
Woohoo!
And they were so good.
So have you read all of the Dorothy Must Die series and novellas?
I have not read all of them yet. Right now I'm reading the number 0 of Hunger Games. And I do think it's movie worthy. That's what people keep asking. Hi, Anna Connor. She inspired me. So there's just so much good stuff out there that even as teachers and librarians, we've never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
Also wanted to share with you that I had an opportunity yesterday in which I used something that I learned from you, Mrs. Kern. One of my neighbors who I spend a lot of time with is doing her master's degree in counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a summer class where she's almost at the end. Like these are her last couple classes.
Right.
And she has to make and do a presentation about equity versus equality. And I gave her the book stamped.
Ooh.
And last night she called me and said, can you come over and sit on my porch?
Mm-hmm.
And we had this big, long conversation. Just blows my mind because she's read some different books than I have. We talked about The Hate U Give.
Yep.
I was able to talk about Long Way Down and All American Boys.
Yep. Yes.
We were talking about the police, African American community conflict, even white community conflict, all the conflicts going on right now.
Yeah.
And, all of these different things and all of the research that we've both been doing on trying to understand where we fit into this and how do I bring myself.
How do I become an ally? Right.
How do I become an ally and how do I have
how do I become
educated, an educated conversation with my next door neighbor is Black. And he's wonderful. I mean, he's a young guy. He's an electrical engineer.
Mm-hmm.
He's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And he drives a Tesla. Very wealthy. Not really, because we don't live in a wealthy neighborhood, but he drives a Tesla. So news to all of you, do your math and your science.
And you might have a Tesla too, or not.
But he's my next door neighbor and he's wonderful. And I try to have these engaging conversations with him about, what can I do? Can you educate me on what do I not understand? What do I not know? And just having read Stamped just really added so much to my brain. Go ahead. Are you grabbing it?
Because in our library, we have a book, and I was going to take it home with me and do the read, and now I'm not going to be able to find it here. Anyway, I have a bag of things. I just looked for it. It's called, this book is Anti-Racist, and we've had that book in our library since this winter. I just read How to Be an Anti-Racist by Dr. Ibram Kendi, who wrote the original Stamped that Jason Reynolds read. By the way, you guys, Stamped is on Sora at the moment. At least 2 days ago, it was not checked out. If you want to know more about our history and dig into that on your own and how, the history of the United States was built on racism,
right?
You can read that there. And there's so much online right now. If you go to the Wakelet that I've got on the homepage for the media, there is so much out there. I was curating a list for young people of just videos you can watch, like Jason Reynolds, Kwame Alexander, Jacqueline Woodson, Linda Sue Park. Oh, I'm forgetting so many names and I don't want to. But there are lots of young adult writers out there who've been talking about this and what you can do on your own. To do
even if you just get on Instagram and put in anti-racism, you'll find TED Talks, videos, Jason Reynolds every day. And the Stamped that I own, well, I now have the other book too because I had to buy it too, is the audiobook that you gave us access to months ago when you said this is available for free right now, and I went and grabbed it.
Yeah.
And so when you listen to it on audiobook, it's Jason Reynolds. It's his cool, deep voice. And he,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, yeah, they all heard him. You
And
guys all heard him. He was here last year. Yeah.
so cool. And you can hear all the people in it. It's a conversation more than a book.
Absolutely.
And it's a conversation then that you can have in your head with your family.
Right.
You know, my kids, I have a son who lives in Chicago who is a part of this whole, he's been out doing all of this stuff. And he's a part of the Northwestern University graduate school community, and they live in Evanston. And he's probably a minority in his group of friends. But he is very much in tune to dealing with that. And he just got a job teaching freshman English in Chicago.
Congratulations.
In a charter school in Chicago for the fall. And it's an African-American school. And he is so excited to bring the joy of reading and literature to these underserved kids. He is so excited. So just, you know, everything, we all have an opportunity to engage.
And the best way I think we can engage is like we've been doing this. It's sharing what you read and sharing what you find and having conversations about it.
It is, because the more we talk about it, the more we learn.
Absolutely.
We learn from each other. Iron sharpens iron. We challenge each other. You know, is that something you should really say? You know, I had breakfast brunch with Mrs. O'Keefe and her daughter yesterday.
Yeah.
And Mrs. O'Keefe, I don't know if you guys know this, has 2 adopted Black sons. And we had a conversation with my daughter and her daughter and the 2 of us. And part of our conversation was with her daughter, how her daughter teased the boys when they were young in the same ways that living in Whiteland, she would tease anyone by saying, you can't come in my room. I don't want people like you in here.
Yeah.
That isn't the same to say to your white brother as it is to say to your Black brother. And so we had that open conversation between the 4 of us yesterday, which was really eye-opening because I've never lived with an African-American person.
Think about it. No.
And she, as a young girl, hadn't thought about that either.
And that's a microaggression, right? That's called a microaggression. Absolutely.
And then she went and apologized to him and talked to him about it. And they had this open dialogue about, how did that make you feel? And
sure,
what should I said instead? How could we change this dynamic between us? You know, how can I tease you in a way that is, you know, they came up with Call Me Four Eyes or something, because I don't know if Mrs. O'Keefe is watching this. She tends to watch on Wednesday mornings.
I think she hasn't waved at us this morning yet, so she must be sleeping. I don't know.
She might be.
Or running.
She's usually up pretty early texting me. Oh. I don't answer because I'm asleep. So,
and now the other thing I want to point out, I just finished How to Be an Anti-Racist last night, and it's a little bit more of an adult read. It's hard. You could definitely encounter it and try it. It's tough to dig into, but even Dr.
Did you hear us talking about you?
She knew it. Her ears were burning. Even Dr. Kendi said, I've done things that are racist. We all do things and we don't know about it. Those of us who are white, there is a white fragility and out there that we don't think about. So, absolutely.
Yeah.
Conversation, I think, is key. And I love how you shared that, Ms. Carter.
It really is. Yeah. It really is.
Hey, I'm going to go a different direction for a second. Okay. Do you have a public library card?
I have. Don't tell. I've been giving you guys a lot of secrets today. I have 2 public library cards because I have one for Morgan County where I live, and I have one for Johnson County where I teach, because we don't have Sora. We have Hoopla and Overdrive, which I use constantly. I'm the queen of gotta have the next one, gotta have the next one, gotta have the next one. I can't wait until the library opens. And in Morgan County, our libraries are not open on Sunday.
Right. And
they close a lot of days at 5 p.m., which I can't even get home by. But this week the library reopened, and Maddie and I went and got some books, and she's working at the Boys and Girls Club this summer, and she's actually got kids, and they're reading The Lightning Thief together.
Ooh, that'll be fun.
Yeah. So we went over and got some copies of that.
All the others.
Oh yeah.
All the others.
So yes, I have 2.
Well, I want to point out that with your JCPL card, or even not with the card right now, they're doing curbside service. So they're not open for you to go inside. They are open if you need to schedule a computer appointment, and you schedule it. But you can call in or do your holds online and then go pick up your books. So we've been doing that a lot. And now every Monday, they're doing a craft kit, a creativity kit, and you just pick it up at the door. Like yesterday when I drove by, I just went in, or not yesterday, Monday. Just stopped and went up and got it. And Maggie, my daughter, and I did Shrinky Dinks yesterday, which was actually the teen adult craft. And then Maggie had a craft that was like create a snake. But everything they give to you that you need is in a bag and it's attached. And they have those out every Monday, a new one, as long as they last. So
That's
they're
cool.
back on Monday, but I want you guys to know, especially if you live close to Clark Pleasant Branch, that's a great way to go get something to do when you're bored too. That's not reading, because reading's awesome too, but so I wanted to make sure I threw that in, let you guys know that your public libraries are trying to do everything they can to help you out right now too, for sure.
Yeah.
And if you're doing those things, you might as well log your reading minutes and help our community, because JCPL, for every 1,000,000 minutes read, they're going to donate $1,000 to a different community organization, a nonprofit, to help people in our community right here. And so when you get your badges, like I got 15 hours logged the other day, I got to vote on which organization I wanted the money to go to.
Wow.
It's really cool right now. Important right now.
Neat.
Yeah.
Kudos to the librarians.
Absolutely. They're awesome people.
Yeah.
Jasmine, that's cool. Jasmine's already logged 5 of her hours.
There's my Harry Potter poster.
Woohoo! I love that one. Oh, jealous. Okay.
Okay.
I have to wrap up in a minute, but this was amazing. This is pretty cool. I liked our chat. I had a chat, but I'll talk about mine next week. So
okay. I'll be back.
I'll see you again soon. Thank you so much, Mrs. Carter.
You are welcome. I miss everybody so much. And I just keep coming into the library and finding books. And every time I'm in the building, I go leave a few, take a few. I just picked up Warcross.
Ooh, I love
that. And the Fountain, whatever that Mrs. Connor talked about last week. It's another Ruta Sepetys. So I picked that up. So those are my next 2 reads. But I'm also in this Dorothy Must Die process. So
what am I reading right now? I just downloaded this one to listen to. Stand Up Yumi Chung, and it's about a girl who does stand-up comedy. She gets into some trouble too, I think, because she's maybe making up some stories. I need to read more of this before I say a whole lot about it. But I love this book. Excellent young adult choice. This is Elizabeth Acevedo's new book that came out a few weeks ago.
Writing it down.
Clap When You Land is amazing. It is in verse, just like her Poet X is. It's about 2 sisters that don't know one another. They don't know they each exist. Their father has lived in the Dominican Republic one part of the year, and in New York another part of the year, and they don't know each other exist until, and in the beginning, I'm not spoiling anything, he dies in a plane crash going home to the Dominican Republic. Amazing book. And I just finished this too. Mrs. Gregg had told me about Jasper June. My Jasper June, this is set in Atlanta. It's about a girl named Leah whose brother has passed away, and people are treating her and her family differently because they don't know how to act around them. So she meets this new friend named Jasper, who's a little bit mysterious. Where she lives and how she shows up and pops up is not typical. She doesn't have a phone where she can call people. So Leah and Jasper become friends, learn more about one another. But what draws Leah to Jasper is that Jasper doesn't treat her any differently because of her brother being dead. And Genesis Begins Again. This one's amazing too. I read this a while.
I finished that Other Words for Home, Other Names for Home.
Yeah, Other Words.
So I can talk about that next time.
That's a really amazing book too.
It's really good, and it's in verse too.
And I think it's on my prize book. So I have a list of you guys who were joining today. So somebody who joined today is going to win a prize book, and we'll put a new question up for the week too. Although people really aren't answering the question, but we'll see. Somebody. and they'll win a book.
Yes, they will.
Yes, they will. Okay,
There's really good odds. So answer the question.
they're very good odds. I know some people say don't answer the question, don't answer. Yeah, but I'll put it up before the end of today. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mrs. Carter.
You're welcome. It was
You.
so good to talk to you. I miss you. I miss everybody at school.
You too.
I'm so excited to think about going back to school and all of the awesome things. We bought the 6th grade ELA. We bought a whole lot of new books. We're so excited. Ghost. I got the Ghost series and some of those things that we're going to read as 6th grade class this year.
I think I can see it. We've been trying to work with Neil Schusterman. He was going to come this fall. I think he's 95% certain. We're trying to work it out so he can come this school year. So Neil Schusterman will visit us in hopefully March 2021. So I know
I want him alone in a room so I can ask him all my questions, even though you said he won't answer them.
Good luck with him answering. No, I know.
I have a million questions. His books are crazy.
And his books, I know his world building is phenomenal. Yeah. You're like, Scythe, how did he think of these things? What kind of
He must be really weird. I
so,
want to yeah.
so we can look forward to that in 2021 too. Woohoo!
I'm so excited for the possibilities of this upcoming year. And just CPMS, we're just, as a country, we're just perched on the edge of this awesomeness.
I think
And
so.
all of this change and all of this, you know, we only grow. My favorite as a coach, O'Keefe. My favorite quote as a coach is, here you go, O'Keefe. There's no growth in the comfort zone and there's no comfort in the growth zone. So if we're uncomfortable, we're growing.
We are.
And
And
we're
it's
learning.
okay.
It's okay.
That's what we want.
And it's just exciting.
After the plague came the Renaissance.
That's right. I mean, there's a Leonardo da Vinci out there just waiting to show up.
Could be one of you guys.
Probably a CPMS student is my
That's right.
guess. Just
Man, that's right.
it's probably a 6th grader too.
I bet. One of yours. Well, you guys, we are going to sign off for today. Everybody have a super day and rest of your week. And if you have questions about books, let either one of us know.
Yep.
Or your people at CPMS. You can email us or some of us are on the social media.
Yep. The social media.
Have
Bye.
Bye. Bye.